I'm just going to carry this. Okay, I'm just going to look for validation here. Okay, I'm just going to do this, like, and then before you know it, I'm like 1,000 miles this way from the rest of the flock, and I'm dirty, and I'm tired, and I'm like, oh, I can't do this anymore. And he's waiting for me to turn around and say that. I cannot do this anymore. How I've been doing it on my own, I need you. The Holy Spirit resides in you. That is the same Spirit that raised Jesus from the dead. We do not work for God's love, but we work from God's love. The Lord is given, the Lord is taken away. May the name of the Lord be praised. If your Bible was illegal, would you value it more? Dang.
Let's go. What's stupid?
Hi, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of For the One Podcast. I'm your host, Nicole Merlino. This is episode, I think, 58. Woo, we're climbing. We're climbing. Pretty soon it's going to be 100. And what are we going to do for the 100th episode? See, I'm already thinking ahead. I hope you are all having good weeks. When I am recording this, it seems like the sky was on fire. Here in Ohio, I woke up. It was a very jarring time for me the other morning, yesterday morning, because the day before I was on a shoot, it was kind of crazy, lot of moving around very quickly. We were inside, outside kind of all day. All that to say, I am subject to migraines, especially in the heat. So by the time I got home from that shoot, I was pretty down bad with migraine. So I eat and I basically like pass out. I was like dead to the world by like 8:30, 9 o'clock. So I have a migraine. I wake up yesterday morning and I'm like, I took a migraine pill, which anytime I do, it helps take care of the migraine, but it makes you groggy. So I'm waking up a little groggy. I feel like it takes about a day for me to actually feel like it's out of my system and I feel like myself again. So I wake up, I'm a little like dazed and confused, a little groggy. And I wake up to a text from one of our friends in our girls chat. And it's this picture of the sun that looks blood red. And she basically like texted like, is Jesus coming back today? ? And all of us in the chat are like, I hope so. Like, yes, Jesus come. I'm ready, Lord. You know, like that's what I love about my friend group is like, everyone's like, we are so ready. Like, get us out of here. We are ready to go home and be at the pearly gates in the streets of gold, with the Lamb. And, it was funny because then I didn't even like pick up on the rest of the photo. I was just so focused on the sun being red. I was like, that's really weird. Like, okay, maybe it's some, because sometimes that happens with the moon. There's like these astrophysical things that, take place. I don't know anything about space or science, but there's usually things that are like explainable as to why or when those things happen. So I'm like, okay, I just, I didn't know about it, but cool. Like that looks like kind of, end days apocalyptic, but cool nonetheless. Well, I didn't get up right away. And by the time then I got up a little bit later, I'm like opening the curtains in the living room. And I'm like, I look out and there's just like this haze and this smoke basically. And I'm like looking out and then like everything's like tinted like this orange because I'm looking up and like the sun's kind of blocked, but it's kind of like this reddish, orangish color. And I'm just like, I literally texted in the group chat. I was like, did something actually happen that I am missing or like am unaware of? Because I don't understand what's going on right now. I'm so sorry. I just burped in the mic. If you heard that, I'm so sorry. Excuse me. But I was like, is something going on? And, everyone in the chat's like, wildfires from Canada wildfires, da, 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 da. And I'm like, oh, had no idea. I am so not up to date on current event news situations. Didn't even know that Canada was on fire. Didn't even know it was that close to the border that the smoke was going to be coming all the way down into, where we live in Ohio. And I just had no idea. So, that's how oblivious I am to world events. Apparently, continent above me could be on fire and I wouldn't know. Not continent. wow, Nicole, did you go to school at all? The country above me could be on fire and I wouldn't know it. So that was how I started my day yesterday, was basically like, I remember when I opened the curtain, I was like, is Jesus coming back today? Like, what is going on outside? And this was one of the few moments where I am very thankful for technology and text messaging and like the quick, for times like that where you're like, guys, like, do I need to be concerned? Should I be like evacuating? Should I be like standing outside, like waiting for Jesus to come down on the cloud? Like, what's going on? You know, like what do I need to be doing right now? So thankful, you know, that I could get clarity on the situation before I, you know, needed to start taking action or making plans. But I had no idea. Obviously, I hope everyone in Canada is like okay as you can be. I know our air quality here was like terrible. It was like over 500. I know Michigan got hit really bad too, but you know, here in Ohio, it was not been good. Especially, I think yesterday was the worst of it. And it just reeked, man. Just smelled like, I don't know, like burning plastic is probably the best way to describe it. But I'm like, oh my gosh, like it just smells terrible outside. I had to meet somebody somewhere. So, you know, I'm in the car and I didn't realize, because I always have my vent on like the external air circulation through the car. And I'm like, gosh, it smells. And I realized it was on. I was like, crap. So I had to like shut it off, wait a couple minutes for it to kind of like aerate like out of the car. I'm like, oh yeah, don't do that. Do not have that external air filter exchange on if it's something bad outside like that. So I feel bad for anyone who had to be outside yesterday for any length of time. Very thankful that was not the day that we were doing that shoot where we were like indoor, outdoor, because that would have been rough. On top of the heat, just the smell and the pollution of the air. Oh my gosh. But so let's see. So that was happening this week. Just like never a dull moment, I guess, on anything, on a micro level or, you know, on a macro scale. But yeah. Oh, and then, you know, the parasite that's going around again, Michigan and Ohio. Like, I know there's other states affected too, but like it really seemed to like be a lot in Michigan, and then Ohio started getting more cases. I haven't had lettuce in over a week because I was like, I literally threw all my lettuce out. Because this parasite, they're like, we don't know where it's coming from, but it's, you know, usually it's going to be on like lettuce or berries, like strawberries, blackberries, things like that. So I'm like, okay, not buying berries, threw my strawberries out, threw all the lettuce out because I was like, I'm not risking this thing. I was hearing like not good things. I was like, I don't want to get it. Don't want to deal with that at all. So I just so be on the safe side. I'm like, I'm just going to throw this lettuce out and just not eat a salad for hopefully maybe 2 weeks will be the max. But we'll see. It's like, things are out of control over here, you know, like the earth is crazy and a mess, and those are just like small inconveniences too. I'm not even saying like, oh, my life is so greatly affected. I'm not even trying to complain. It's just like, again, it puts into perspective like, oh wow, like if our air quality is this bad, hundreds if not thousands of miles away from where the actual fire is, like, holy crap, like how bad is the air quality where these fires are? So, you know, I feel bad for like the people and the wildlife and everything in Canada being affected by that. And then same with like the parasite. It's like, you know, I know other countries and people and places deal with, you know, stuff like this, contaminated food, all of that. And it's just like, we're so blessed here in America where like, this is like the exception, not the norm, which I'm thankful for. But then every time like something like this happens, it's like, what an inconvenience. And, you know, now I'm complaining about not being able to have a salad for 2 weeks. It's like, okay, it's not that big of a deal. Just don't have salad for 2 weeks, maybe a month. And it's like, you'll be fine. You'll live. But yeah, putting that into perspective. Oh, and then of course, Sunday morning, you know, because y'all know, I put the podcast out on Sundays. So usually by the time I wake up Sunday morning, I just like to like check like, okay, everything that I had scheduled, it went when it was supposed to go. Like, yes, it's up, it's good. You know, there was no problems, or I didn't schedule it on the wrong date somehow, because I have accidentally done that before. And I open Instagram I think double checked that the reel had uploaded and was scheduled to go out at whatever time. And the first thing on my timeline that I see is like this crazy, I forget the exact number. And so like, this is not a direct quote, but it was like quite a bit. It was like, I want to say at least 200 to 300 like Nigerians had been like burned in either like their homes or their churches within the like days prior to when this post was made. And it just kind of seemed like there was kind of just like a rampant rampage that happened over there where, I mean, they're just like lighting Christian churches and homes on fire. And I was struggling with wanting to go to church. That's still like a hard thing for me. And honestly, getting back into it, Sunday was actually the first time I had gone in person in about 3.5 months since the surgery. I just hadn't gotten back to going in church or to church in person, and it's just one of those moments again where it's like you want to complain and not really want to go and all this stuff. And I remember like we're at church, it ends, we sit through the service, it ends, we go out in the lobby. Aaron had to use the bathroom, so I'm like standing out in the lobby. And I'm just like looking up because the church that, we've kind of been going to, it's beautiful. It's a newer-ish building. I don't know the exact time frame it was built, but newer-ish, in the lobby especially, just these beautiful, like huge, tall ceilings, like wood ceilings, like just not like a Catholic church architecture, of course, but just pretty in its own right. And I'm just staring up at the ceiling. I'm just like looking at these wood slats. Anyone staring at me probably thought I was like insane and like, what is she looking at? But I just was like contemplating that post where I'm like, I am standing here in a clean, well-ventilated, AC'd, with my coffee, this beautiful building, a clean environment that we have to gather in. And I was like coming begrudgingly. And I don't want to say complaining because I wasn't complaining, but like I didn't really want to go, or like I could have thought of a million reasons not to go and all this stuff. And I'm like, meanwhile, these people are literally meeting in spaces that they're not well ventilated. They definitely don't have AC, like might be dirty, off the beaten path. And I was looking at the front doors, and I'm like, and every time they go into that building, they know that they may not come out of it alive. And it's just like, we cannot even fathom that. Like, I was trying to like genuinely like feel the weight of what that must feel like. And I genuinely can't. Like, my brain is almost not even able to comprehend that because we're so cushy over here. Because like, I'm staring at the front door and I'm like, okay, now imagine like a bunch of men with guns. Not, and I'm not discrediting, like, yes, like there's been attacks on churches and violence towards churches and people of religion here in this country. I'm not saying or negating that, but I'm like, imagine like a bunch of men with guns or matches or flamethrower, like whatever they're using. I don't know what they're using, but it just like coming through the door in those moments. And it's like, what, like, and not knowing if they're going to come in the door. And it's just like, we have no idea over here what that is like to have to sit in the back of your head that every time you're going to that building that is not cushy, that is not comfortable, that is not safe to your physical body, because you walk in there, these Nigerians are walking in there and they don't know if they're coming out of this building alive again. Like they don't know, but they're willing to do it. See, this is like, man, like this is what makes like the gospel of Jesus and the Holy Spirit so wild to me in the best sense. And like for people, I don't know, like I'm just like, are people like actually fathoming as much as they can? And again, I can only understand like this much, or I'm only able to put myself in their shoes this much because I really don't know what that's like. But they keep going. They keep going back. They keep gathering. Oh, we lost another 300 people. They got burned in their houses, burned in the church. Well, we're going to meet here now, or we're going to use this building as a church, and we're going to meet next Sunday because we're not going to let them doing that stop us from what we're doing. And the message of boldness and just literally that to me is the most modern day concept I have of someone like staring in the face of death or potential death and just being 10 toes down and being like, we're still going to go. People in China, I know it's the same thing. They have the underground churches, all this stuff. I just saw a clip, oh gosh, and I can't remember the country. It might have been China actually. But they were talking about how like they cannot worship out loud. Like they cannot sing. So literally the guy was saying they'll like meet in an apartment, but they all have to take different routes and come in at different times so that it's not super like suspicious that there's like 35 people coming all together at like 9 a.m. to go to this one apartment. They have to kind of like do it in a broken up manner, and they come in and nobody's talking. Like everything's quiet and like everyone, it's like hushed tones or like nothing. And the guy at the door is handing them a paper with like the lyrics of whatever the song is, the worship, but they can't sing it. And so he said, like, you're in this room, and he's like, in the silence is one of the most holiest things, because what people do is they just hold it and they meditate on the words that they're reading. Like they read it collectively. And he said they have like a composer, like a guy almost like being like verse, like chorus, like whispering the cues to like keep so that they're still collectively like worshiping at the same time in the same pace. And he's kind of like keeping tempo, you know how they do, but like nobody can sing. Nobody can sing. And it's just like, oh gosh, I think we need to hear stuff like that, because I am so very guilty of just being so much in my own little bubble, my own little world, and my own little problems and inconveniences. And I can't have lettuce for 2 weeks and like all this stuff. And it's just like, man, God, like I am grateful that we get to gather, and I'm not like fearing for my life. I'm grateful that, again, I have 2 Bibles right here, like legal. No one's going to bust in or see this and take me to prison because I have a Bible, you know, in my hand. Like we have, or I can sing openly, freely, whenever I want. I blast my worship music. I got the sunroof open. I'm like blasting like, you know, Elevation or KB, like whatever it is. And it's like, no one can like haul me off to jail for that. And again, it may not always be like that in this country. I hope that we maintain that freedom. I understand that that's not a guarantee. But man, we better be grateful for it while we have it. Because again, we don't know if we're always going to have it. And just a reminder to pray for our brothers and sisters in these other nations and countries that are just, I don't know, just so persecuted, and they have to do things in such an underground way, but the church is growing through the persecution, and they're still willing to show up, and they're still willing to risk it. And they're like, if I go to prison, I go to prison. If they kill me, they kill me. Like, I'm going to go be with Jesus. I'm good either way. Like, man, to stand 10 toes down in that level of faith is something that it's so inspiring to me, because again, we're like, oh, church, and like, oh, I have to get ready and I have to wake up. And what do you mean I should be reading my Bible? Like, we're just so cushy over here. Like, it's like we need like a good, healthy, like slap in the face. At least that's what I need. I need a good, healthy slap in the face from the Lord. And I feel like headlines like that, like that's not what I wanted to see, like basically as soon as I woke up on Sunday morning, but I'm glad I saw it, because it's I think we need to be reminded of what we have over here, and to pray for our brothers and sisters in these other countries who are not as lucky in their freedom of religion as we are here in America. So, and again, people want to hate on this country and be like, I'm not celebrating 4th of July and I'm not celebrating 250 and the politicians are so corrupt. And it's like, yes, two things can be true at the same time. You get to say whatever you want to say. You get to love whoever you want to love in America. Whether somebody agrees or disagrees, that's a completely different conversation. The point is, you get to be whatever religion you want to identify as here in America. You get to do all of that here in America. You don't get to do all of that in other parts of the world without consequence. And I'm like, whether it's Christian or not, I'm like, I don't know how many people are actually like realizing that or are understanding that this is not the norm everywhere else. It's really not. So you should appreciate it regardless of who's in the White House, regardless of who you voted for. It's like, yeah, all the politicians are corrupt. Sure. Yes, the government. Oh, Lord. That's been a mess since we don't even know how far back when. But like, it doesn't change the fact that like we at least have freedoms here that a lot of other people do not have. And we should be grateful for that. I'll get off my soapbox of that now. So I don't know if this today, what I want to say is like, this may not just be the last time we talk about this. This is maybe just like 10,000 foot, I don't want to say surface level, but just like kind of laying a foundation of this topic that we might dive into again at some point. But I know last week I kind of just shared very openly of like where I'm at, what I'm struggling with, coming out of, last couple months of my life, all this stuff. Intimacy with God is a struggle, and relationally, there's just like this, like I was on the way here. I was like praying out loud, which I don't do often enough. I'm trying. Kevin actually like encouraged. He was like, I think that's good for you. He's like, I would say that's good for anybody, but he was like, especially for you being like a verbal external processor, like you need to start like praying out loud, basically. There's just something to that. And I don't disagree with him. It's just something I don't do often. It really is like talking to yourself. Like yes, you believe that God's like hearing you, but obviously there's not this like person right across from you. Like it's not like having this like back and forth dialogue conversation. It's a lot of like you talking and then you're just kind of like sitting there and then you're like, okay, like, and one of the last things I said to him before I got to the studio was I was just like, I know you're here, but like, are you here? Like, I know you never leave me or forsake me. Again, I know the scripture. I know the things, but I'm like, it just feels like you're just like, like, are you here? Actually, are like anything you want to say, anything, like, I'm just kind of like, hello. So I'm like, well, I guess I'll just try this talking thing and like, all right, might not get a response today. And like, that's is what it is. But I think I came across this Instagram post actually very shortly after I recorded that podcast about like the intimacy with God and where I'm at with everything. And I want to read it because I feel like it just opens this like mindset shift in a way that maybe if you're like me that you've maybe been struggling with. I know I've been struggling with this. The creator's name, just to give her credit, is Kate Wilsey, ending in EY if you wanted to look this post up. But basically I titled this in my notes app as "The desire for certainty is ruining your trust." So I'm just going to read the post. Quote, "You actually don't need to chronically be afraid that you're following God the quote unquote right way. For a lot of people, faith slowly became centered around avoiding mistakes. Decisions started feeling spiritually loaded, not because every decision actually carried that much weight, but because they were taught that getting it wrong could mean missing God's will, disappointing God, or ending up somewhere they were never supposed to be. Over time, spirituality can become less about relationship and more about self-monitoring. People start watching themselves constantly, questioning themselves constantly, wondering if they are discerning enough, listening enough, trusting enough. Eventually, the goal stops being connection. The goal becomes certainty. But certainty was never the promise. Trust was. And those are very different things. Certainty is the feeling that you know exactly what comes next. Trust is the willingness to move forward even when you don't. This is one reason so many people become exhausted. They are trying to achieve a level of confidence that faith was never supposed to provide. Faith was never meant to remove every question. It was never meant to eliminate every risk. And it was never meant to guarantee that every decision would work out perfectly. Because following God was never supposed to require chronic fear. And anxiety is not evidence that you are taking your faith more seriously. Sometimes it's evidence that you've been carrying more responsibility than was ever yours to carry. Listen, if that doesn't resonate, then okay, maybe this episode's not for you. That hit me like a train. That still just hit me again, and I've read it at least probably 5 times, not counting today. And I identify so much with that. Over time, it became less about relationship and more about self-monitoring. And I would almost maybe, I don't know if I love the term self-monitoring as much as I would personally probably replace that with striving. Again, on the way here, I was even thinking, I'm like, I do love doing this podcast, but, and I feel like the Lord, you know, I've shared the story multiple times about how groups are, and I felt like the Lord told me to open my home, go back to Acts 2, like the early church, go back to basics, all that stuff. And I'm like wondering with him, because I'm like, am I just in a season where it's not that he's saying like these things aren't good. And this goes back to the conversation I had with Chris on our podcast. It's like, it's not to say that like what you're doing isn't good, or it's like, or it's not for the kingdom, or it's not for the right reasons, or any of that. But I'm like, Lord, are you, because I'm like, I don't want to do it. There's a lot of things right now that I don't want to do because I'm tired, because the connection has felt severed or rusty or weak in some way between me and God. And I'm like, there's been plenty of times in the recent months where I'm like, I don't want to have group. I don't want to prep for group. I don't want to have this conversation. I don't want to deal with this thing. I don't want to go record a podcast. I'm not going to lie. On the way here, I'm like, I want to take a nap right now. I feel tired. I probably am also emotionally tired from various things. It's like, I'm like, man, a nap sounds so great right now. But it's like, I don't want to go record a podcast. I want to take a nap. And it's like, I mean, I'm still showing up and I'm doing the thing. And I think there is something to be said for like still showing up and doing something and being obedient even when you don't feel like it, because that's kind of the whole thing of like a covenant, whether it's you and God, or again, we use that parallel a lot in marriage, is like love is not a feeling. And if you are only going to base every decision, every action, every moment of like trying to serve the other person on how you feel towards them, or like, do I feel like I love them today? It's going to be rough. It's going to be rough. And I think it's like the same between us and God, where it's like, again, it's like, man, I know who you are and I don't question who you are. And I say I love you and I'm trying to act accordingly, but it's just like, but I don't want to. It's like, Lord, I don't want to read my Bible. I don't want to pray. I don't want to go do this podcast. I don't want to host group on this Sunday. Like, whatever it is, it's like, I don't want to do those things. But I'm also sitting there like, and I'm like, Lord, are you like using this to kind of like show me, like, again, the podcast isn't bad, group isn't bad. These things are not inherently bad within themselves, but it's like, Lord, was I trying to like, at the same time, use these opportunities that you gave me or things in obedience that I felt like you were asking me to step into. Are you using this as a teaching moment at this time of like, I, at the same time, in Nicole's mind, like behind everything, was striving for some sort of, I don't even know what you want to call it, validation, relevance, of like, I don't even know. I'm that Christian. I don't know. I don't know if there was ever like an end to that sentence, but in the back of my head, I'm like, my entire, even when I started to feel called into ministry, and this was, a couple years ago, once I started getting more involved in the church I was going to at the time, and I really was like, oh wait, Lord, like there's something to this. Like, you've gifted me in leadership, you've gifted me in communication, you've gifted me with attention to detail and creativity and like all this stuff. I'm like, oh wait, like, and I'm like, oh, I want to use this for your gospel. Like, I want to use this to spread the gospel of Jesus, because again, I'm like, well, at the end of the day, if I'm not doing that, like, what am I doing? Like, what's the point? And again, there's nothing inherently wrong or bad in saying that, but I think what I didn't realize was like this little internal switch that started all the way back then, where it was like, well, I have to be here and I have to be relevant enough, and I have to be like knowledgeable enough and wise enough, and I don't know, people like have to be wowed by like my public speaking, and people have to be wowed by like how I'm able to like put a team together and lead, and like whatever it was, or like I have to validate to external people like how many people are in the Bible study to like make it feel more it's like, I remember dealing with that early on with group, where people would be like, well, how many people do you have coming? And I felt like if I just said like 8 or 10, I'm not saying I ever lied, but like I would take like on the max day that we've ever had, I would be like, oh, like we had like 15, 18 people. Wasn't a lie, but it was like, yeah, but that's not who's coming every week. It was more like 8, 10. And it's like, early on, I was like, why do you feel like you have to like give this validity with number? Or like, why do I feel like I have to give this podcast validity with like, oh, well, how many subscribers do you have? How many viewerships like do you have? Or like when I was at the church, it's like, oh, well, like, oh, Nicole never took a Sunday off. Like it was always like, it's this like badge of like pride that I'm like trying to wear as like a badge of honor. And it's actually like become a badge of burden, because it's like me trying again to create this like validity or relevance that I can do these things, or I should be doing these things, or all this stuff. And it's like, again, I'm not even saying that the Lord in every season, I truly believe had me in the positions he's had me. But I'm like, in this process of kind of like, I don't like using the word deconstruct because of the connotation of it, because I'm not deconstructing like Christianity as a whole or the Bible or any of that, but it's like looking at how we do church in America. A lot of it's not really lining up with what I'm reading in scripture. Okay, got to work on that. So I like saying like reconstruct. So even as I'm reconstructing, like, because we talk about like, oh, I want to be made more in the image of Jesus. I'm finding myself like asking, like, what would Jesus do in this situation? How would Jesus treat this person in this situation? I'm not going to lie. Those are questions I didn't really find myself asking a lot before, or to her point in the post, like discerning through. But I think there's a healthy level of doing that. And then there's the unhealthy level that I also talked to Chris about, where you can get on the hamster wheel rat race of being like, am I in God's will? Isn't this in God's will? God, I prayed and you didn't give me like a clear, like, yes or no answer, green or white answer, like whatever it is. Like you never, like you didn't give me a clear answer. And the fact that like this is titled like the desire for certainty is ruining your trust, because it's like, oh yeah, this is not even about walking in faith anymore. This is about, I want you to tell me like A or B, black or white, red or blue, to Chris's point, it's like, do I live in this house or this house? Like, do I take this job or this job? And it's like, we want such clear instructions because we're scared, like, oh, if I don't know the exact thing or the exact answer or the exact decision, like I'm going to go off the rails. My whole life's going to fall apart. The Lord's going to be angry. Like, whatever stuff we tell ourselves. And it's like, I remember having this conversation when Adam was on for the 1 year anniversary. And it's like, but that's not trust. Like biblical trust is like, to her point in this post as well, is like when you don't know where you're going, when you don't know what's next, when you don't know if you made the right decision, when you don't fully know, okay, I chose option B. I don't know. God, was that in your will? But I think we get so caught up in that. And I've been so caught up in that. And I've been so caught up in the striving that I think that that's ruined the intimacy, my want for these super direct answers, like, Lord, am I going to be healed? Yes or no? Lord, is this who I'm supposed to marry? Yes or no? Lord, am I supposed to move to this place? Yes or no? Am I supposed to start the podcast? Should I keep doing Bible study? It's like, I'm not saying to not ask the Lord questions or seek wisdom or clarity on things, but it's like, my gosh, we drive ourselves to the point of insanity. I feel sometimes with this, because yes, we want to be in God's will. Yes, we want to be pleasing to the Lord. But part of that, I'm also like, okay, but the Lord cannot be pleased that I was idolizing wanting answers and seeking certainty over being with him. That's what we have created, an idol of certainty, or an idol out of we want answers. And so that's where it's also hard too, because I even just said it a few minutes ago. Oh, I was praying out loud on the way here, and then I'm kind of listening, and I'm like, Lord, I don't feel like you're saying anything. I know you're here, but are you here? And as valid as that is, it's also why do I think that there has to be a quote unquote response? Where was that expectation set? And then I get frustrated that there's not one, or he's not answering a question, or he's not giving me any clarity on a prayer or situation, again, in the way that I'm probably looking for it, or expecting it. But I've set the expectation that hey, you should be doing this for me. But then when it doesn't happen, I'm getting frustrated. I'm getting disappointed. What does that lead to? Oh, I don't want to pray. Praying doesn't work. I'm saying these things, and he's just not saying anything to me. And I kind of started to have the moment of, I'm like, is this the season that I'm in? That you are revealing to me in your silence? Because sometimes I think silence can be an answer. I'm like, not a yes, not a no, but I'm gonna just you gotta get there. And here's the thing about the Lord, and I keep saying this, is he will get you where he needs to get you by whatever means necessary. And I'm wondering in this season, I'm is part of my frustration and my feeling of disconnectedness, and the fact that you're not really talking to me, you're not really answering anything that I'm talking to you about, is that all to your point of, I have been focused on the wrong things. I'm striving to be I don't know, seen or esteemed as oh, Nicole's wise and Nicole's that. And it's yeah, sure. That's a great compliment. If somebody says hey, you have wisdom. Hey. And I'm yeah, you know what? That's a gift from the Lord, because I pray for it a lot. I pray for wisdom a lot. I pray for discernment a lot, because I'm not that good on my own. And I know that I need that from him supernaturally. And it's yes, is that stuff a compliment, and is that nice, and is that great? Sure. But I'm at the end of the day, I am not the intimacy is lacking, and the connectedness is lacking. And when he talks about abiding in John 15, abide in me, I am the vine, you are the branches, remain in me and I'll remain in you. That's not happening right now, or that is what is being attacked the most right now. And so I'm oh, is this really calling out the fact of I have been so concerned about clarity. I've been so concerned about getting it right, that I have, whether I intended to or not, stepped in my own way with my own pride. And again, going back to me struggling with intimacy with the Lord, it's like that it goes back to like, do you trust him? And going back to the fact of like, what do you do when you're disappointed or when your expectations not met or when he doesn't show up how you think he should show up or when he should show up or all these things. And it's like, yeah, that is stemming from, I believe, after reading this like spoke to me, this root of, if I'm being honest, no, I don't trust him because again, I've built an idol of, I want answers, I want certainty, I expect this type of response from you. I've built that idol over him being him, even if he is silent right now. What if that prayer doesn't get answered? Okay, what if he doesn't give you clarity on that situation? Like that's the whole thing is like, are you still gonna open your word? Are you still gonna pray to me? Are you still gonna worship? Like, am I still worthy of your worship if nothing changes? Am I still worthy of your worship if I don't give you an answer on this? Or am I still worthy of your worship when work doesn't happen or the paycheck doesn't come through on time? Am I still worthy of your worship when all of these things that to you deem need to be in alignment for then you to be like, oh God, you're so great. You're so powerful. You're so wonderful. Okay, yeah, but what happens when all of that does not happen? What happens when all of that doesn't line up? What happens when you're 28 and you're still not married and like you're still not financially where you thought you would be and you're nowhere in your career where you thought you would be? What happens then? What happens then with all that disappointment? What happens when people in your family are still not healed or set free or there's tensions happening in your friend group? What happens then? You know what has happened? And again, I'm being honest, I've like retreated and I've backed away because I'm like, well, I don't know. I've been like serving you and I thought I was like doing all the right things and all this stuff still happened. Well, it's like, yeah, duh, it's gonna happen regardless. Again, in this world, you will have many trials. You will suffer as I've suffered. Like, take heart, I've overcome the world. I just combined like two scriptures there and paraphrasing, but I'm like wondering how many of us, again, have made the idol of certainty and answers, which has really, really torn down the level of trust and the level of like actual like faith that is required. Like, oh yeah, who do you have your faith in? And we would like, as Christians, we would say Jesus Christ. Like, that's who my faith is in. Okay, well, if that's who your faith is in, then why are you so concerned and looking for answers and clarity and comfort and peace in all of these other people and situations? That you're like, I want this to line up like this, and then I'll trust you. I want this to come through like this, and then I'll give this to you. I don't see anywhere in here where that is how this works, but that's what I have done. I think that's what a lot of us do internally. And again, I think take your frustrations to God. I said in that, in the 1 year interview with Kevin, I said, like, I really think that the throne room needs to be a wrestling mat. And this is now that wrestle of, okay, we're identifying like where these roots are like coming up. And again, it's like, man, we want to, and here's the thing, it's like, some of y'all could dog on me and be like, oh, you have some nerve. Like you're saying like you're struggling in your faith and your relationship with God. And you're talking about like not being connected, but you're going to get on a podcast and you're still going to lead a Bible saying you're going to, yes. You know why? Because then I'm just sitting here thinking about the Lord talking about in that same John 15, where he's telling us to abide. He also was talking about pruning. He is also talking about if we're going to say, hey, I'm a Christian. I believe in this. I want to follow you, Jesus, and I want to look more like you. I don't know where we got the idea that any season where he is digging up the roots of something that no longer can stay with you, because again, what does he say? He goes, hey, you're better than that, and I love you too much to leave you how I found you. So again, if you think you're going to be the same the day that you accept him as the day that you die, That's not this religion. That's not what this is. And I think to put, and this is what I have felt, the weight of the expectation and other people's perception on how this should look. Well, Nicole, this is what this should look like, and you should be doing this, and this, you should be this far in your relationship with the Lord, because you're saying you've been a Christian since you were 7 and you got baptized at 7, and the weight of that, again, I think can become an idol to like how the Lord is actually trying to utilize the situations and the times that you are in your life to actually, again, get to the root of stuff, start pruning and plucking stuff out, and it's gonna get dirty, and it's not gonna be comfortable, and it's not gonna look pretty. And I don't know who started preaching this gospel that every season of you being on this walk with the Lord was going to be holly or jolly, or it was going to be pretty and perfect. I don't know who sold that lie, but like I don't know. That's not what this is. And that's what I saw that post, and I wanted to share that with you guys, because I'm like, again, if anybody is sitting there like relating to what I'm saying, it's like, this is not just you. And I realized again in that prayer with the Lord, and maybe that was the only thing I was supposed to get from that prayer that I had in the car on the way here today. I was like, Lord, I'm just going to start talking, praying out loud, trying to talk to you. And maybe that was his responding in that revelation of, hey, you know what? This may be an intentional season where I'm actually trying to show you that all this stuff that you thought was going to like elevate or like, again, validate or bring some sort of relevance to you is actually not the thing. That's not important. And if you keep striving towards that sort of false perception, you're going to be burnt out. You're going to be tired. You're not going to feel like you have the grace or the strength to do the things that I actually have asked you to do. And you're going to be exhausted. Are you exhausted? Yeah, cuz you're carrying stuff. What did she say at the end of that post? You being anxious is not, oh, like my relationship with the Lord is just like so good. She's like, no, that is actually probably like a sign that you're carrying stuff that you were never meant to carry. That's why you're burnt out, Nicole. That's why you're tired. That's why you're exhausted. That's why you feel like you don't want to do this anymore. And this means like all of it. Like, that's not the podcast. That's not group in and of itself. It's all of the things that it just feels like comes with being a Christian. And it's just like, oh my gosh, like, and that's why I said in the car, I said, Lord, I know it's not supposed to feel like a lot, but it feels like a lot. But it's like, those are the prayer. It's like, say that then. Say that out loud. I don't know if I said that out loud before today. To him specific, I don't know if I like verbalized that. So to Kevin's point, I think there is something with verbalizing out loud your prayers. But it's like you having this exhaustion and this burn. This is not, again, I'm just like, that's not the Lord, because I go back to Matthew 11 and he gave me that verse months ago. It's kind of been weighing in the back of my head of like, my yoke is easy, my burden is light. In verse 28, like, take my yoke upon you and I will give you rest. And I've been like, what does that mean, Lord? Like, what does that actually look like? And I'm like, maybe, just maybe, the Lord is, I always say this, the Lord, more times than not, I think will let you or bring you to the end of yourself, to the end of you, to the end of Nicole, for you to then actually understand, turn to him and be like, oh yeah, you really are the only source of my strength, of my joy, of my hope, of my resilience, of my victory. Like, oh, it really is only you, because every time that I've been trying to like rely on myself, where do I end up? Exhausted, overwhelmed, anxious, feeling defeated. And in his grace and in his mercy, I think I'm almost thinking of like a candle, and like you watch like the wick burn down. I feel like he's letting my wick get all the way down to the bottom. And he's like, go, like, no, I'm going to let it. I'm going to let it go all the way down and simmer out at the bottom. Cause I know, like, once that hits, you're going to be like, oh, I get it now. Yeah, no, I can't. you gotta help me. You gotta take this. You gotta do, like, you gotta become reliant on me again. Because it's like, yes, in some areas, stay reliant on the Lord. But in other areas, we all do this. We pick stuff back up that we've surrendered, or we thought we surrendered, or we thought we handed over or dealt with or forgave or whatever. And then we like pick it back up and then we start carrying it. And then it's like, yeah, no wonder why you're tired. No wonder why you're tired. Because you've been striving for something, like thinking even maybe like I have to like, I know I don't have to work for salvation, but it's like I almost feel like I have to like work to become like Jesus or maintain salvation. I think it almost feels like that sometimes, where it's like, oh, well, if I say I'm a Christian, I got to make sure I'm like, up to snuff. And the Lord's like, yes, I want you to look like me and to bear my fruit. Yes, but not in the way that you've been doing it at the expense, again, of yourself. But again, he will let me get to the end of myself to simmer all the way out before he's like, all right, you ready to actually do this my way? And I think, again, this is why he's been a little quiet in the season, because he's like, I'm just letting you run it down. I'm just letting you kind of burn yourself out. And when you're ready, I'm here and we can have that chat. Are you ready yet? Because I feel like you're getting close. I'm getting close. I'm like, right. I feel like I'm right there. I'm like right on that cusp. I'm right on that cusp. And it's probably what I need. I don't even want to say probably. It is what I need. I need to feel, just like when we talk about like the grandeur and the gratitude of what we have for like what Jesus did on the cross can only really come when you're like confronted with the depravity of like your own self and your own sinfulness and sinful nature. In a similar parallel, it's like, yeah, like how badly I actually need the Lord and need to be reliant on him and need to abide in him and need to actually rest and take his yoke in that whole verse in Matthew 11. How relevant that is only going to be found out in the weight of how exhausted he allowed me to make myself, and how weary he allowed me to make myself, and how like, you know, oh, I'm going to hold on to this stuff and I don't want to surrender this and I want to do this my way and I'm going to try that. And he's like, it's only going to make sense and it's only going to actually get in to my heart when I experience like the complete opposite of, again, ease and rest and life abundantly and all the things that he promises there. It's like, yeah, you're only going to be able to actually fully grasp and understand and appreciate that once I let you get so exhausted, so tired, so overwhelmed, so anxious that like you don't even know what to do with yourself. But come back. And this is why this podcast is called For the One, because this is a perfect example of where it's like, I feel like that lost little dirty sheep. And I was like, okay, I'm going to, in a sense, I didn't fully like walk away from him or faith or anything, but I'm like, okay, I'm just going to carry this. Okay. I'm just going to look for validation here. Okay. I'm just going to do this, like, and then before you know it, I'm like 1,000 miles this way from the rest of the flock, and I'm dirty and I'm tired. And I'm like, oh, I can't do this anymore. And he's waiting for me to turn around and say that I cannot do this anymore. How I've been doing it on my own. I need you. Those magic words. I need you. And I do need you, Lord. And I'm recognizing that. And that's what I'm saying. Like, I just wanted to share this because I feel like I'm right on the verge. Some of you may be like right on that cusp too. Like, this is not like the end. Like, yeah, this season has been tough. It's been like a lot of emotions. It's been a lot of exhaustion on my end. And I felt like drained and again, dry. And like, again, the intimacy has been like, there's a block, but it's like, I know that light is coming. I know that Sunday is coming, you know, in reference to the resurrection. Like, I know that there is something that is coming. I just like, again, I had to sit in the weight of this and come to the bottom of this particular pit that I know the Lord will be gracious to lift me out of and like bring me back to himself. So I don't know. I hope that makes sense. I hope that that's encouraging to somebody out there. I hope that this is, again, as we're like wrestling with all of the emotions of our day-to-day and our walk with God and the people around us and the situations around us, like, again, he never leaves us or forsakes us, even when it feels like, God, where are you? Are you here? Like, yes, he is here. He's always here. He loves you. He's been pursuing you all the days of your life, and he's just waiting for you to just turn around and be like, yeah, I'm ready to go home. I need you, and I'm ready to do this your way. So I just hope and I pray that meets some of you where you're at. I hope and I pray that we can all come repentant and just, again, in a humble posture, surrendering to him of like, show me Matthew 11:28. Show me how your yoke is easy and your burden is light. Show me how you don't require much. Show me what it is to, have life and life to the full and to remain in you and to abide in you. Like, show me those things, God. That's my prayer for all of us. Like, show us those things of your nature and your character, and show us how to actually walk that out in our day-to-day lives. So with that, I will leave you with that. I will leave us with that prayer. God and Holy Spirit, I pray that you meet every single person and myself where we are, right where we are. You already know what we need. And this is not going to be the end of this conversation. This, I think, really was just the beginning. But I will leave you with that for episode 58, and I will see you on the next episode of For the One Podcast. The Holy Spirit resides in you. That is the same Spirit that raised Jesus from the dead. We do not work for God's love, but we work from God's love. The Lord is given, the Lord is taken away. May the name of the Lord be praised. If your Bible was illegal, would you value it more? Dang.
Like